ask yourself this question. These NFL guys, when you see pictures of them in high school, they look like they're 25 years old because they're so muscular when they're in high school. Well, why doesn't that happen to everybody? This is a beginner's guide to building muscle and getting fit. I think a lot of the videos out there are more aimed at people who have some more experience. And I think if you're fresh out of the gate, if you're young, or you just haven't done this yet, there's a lot of things you need to learn about yourself. But if nobody's telling you what you need to learn and what you need to keep track of, you can waste a lot of time. I know I did. I wasted years doing workouts that did absolutely nothing. And I tried to change them, and those newer workouts did absolutely nothing. And I think most of the advice that's out there is aimed at or has been shown to work for a lot of professional athletes, maybe professional bodybuilders. And unless you build muscle very easily, you have nothing in common with those people. Not a thing. Therefore, don't follow their advice. When I was in high school, I remember everybody wanted to do like the Dorian Yates program, or they wanted to follow what Arnold did. And I remember thinking, well, if you don't have Arnold's genetics, then how do you know what he did is going to work for you? It probably won't. And here's an even more stark example. A lot of people who have paid attention when they were younger to athletes as they all and you all developed through, like, let's say high school. I want you to think back when you were in high school. There was probably one or two guys who freshman year went into the weight room, started doing some stuff. They didn't know what they were doing. They probably had, if they had any coaching, it was probably bad coaching. But the guys who end up in the NFL are typically identified somewhere between 12 and 14 years old. And then their parents get really serious, might send them to a camp. School administrators realize, oh, this is a star of the football team, so let's make sure this kid doesn't get in any trouble. So they get sort of extra supervision because everybody knows they're going to move on to greatness. Now, ask yourself this question. These NFL guys, when you see pictures of them in high school, they look like they're 25 years old because they're so muscular when they're in high school. Well, why doesn't that happen to everybody? Because in high school, lots of people are going into the weight room. In fact, like for males, it's almost like everybody that goes to high school runs through the weight room at least a couple times to see if they can get any results out of it. And of course, most of us get nothing. So I want to focus on if you're one of those people that seems to get nothing or get very little. If you don't look like an NFL player after training for a couple of years, it's not going to happen for you doing what you've been doing. You need to really immerse yourself in your program and be measuring. You want to be weighing yourself and you want to be checking your body fat. Now, of course, checking your body fat, there's a lot of different ways to do that. All of them are sort of bad, but you'll know if you're getting, the real measure is if you're getting stronger, because there's no such thing as a bigger muscle that got weaker or stayed the same. If it's getting stronger, it's also getting bigger. That is the hands down truth. And there's a study that demonstrated that by doing MRIs on pectorals and accurately determining what an individual's 1 rep maximum is for the bench press. That will be in the details of the YouTube video. So when we have a situation where you're new and you're experimenting, start off with a standard weightlifting program. You know, the ACSM has a hypertrophy program. If you just Google that, you'll find what they recommend and see over the course of a couple of weeks, are you getting stronger? Now, you don't need to necessarily add weight. Progressive overload is adding repetitions also. So that's the best way to do it. If you're doing 12 repetitions one time and you do 14 repetitions the next time, as long as you maintain exactly the same cadence, that's important. Because what happens is sometimes when people first start out, they're using this kind of pace. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, they're a little more comfortable with the movement. So they're being more explosive. So you can actually do more reps and perform less work because you're holding the weight for less time. This is why people say time under tension is really important. It is important. I would say time under variable tension is more important, but I'll get to that later. So when you're doing this, you got to track your strength. You got to make sure that you're getting stronger with every workout or even every other workout, because not every day you're better. You're like, you might have had a lousy night's sleep. You might have an allergic reaction to something in the air. So you want to have a couple of samples of data before you end up drawing a conclusion. Now, these standard weightlifting programs, it's really just to test, are you getting stronger? And you need to keep on testing, because the moment you're not getting stronger, you need to try and determine why. If you have variation in the program, with a lot of people, they'll just sort of haphazardly switch exercises. You don't really want to do that. In fact, all research on sort of confusing the muscle, that is not true. There's an American College of Sports Medicine position paper on how progressive overload with the same multi-joint exercises. So multi-joint meaning there's two joints involved, like bench press is, the shoulder and the elbow as I'm pushing away. A single joint exercise would be like a bicep curl. So you want to focus on multi-joint. You don't need any variance of exercises beyond those to really know where you're going. Now, once you're on a good path, you can add some specifics, but in the beginning, just test. You want to do these multi-joint exercises because chances are they're going to show you what you need to know. As soon as you stop getting stronger, you'll stop building muscle mass. And that's the moment where you need to decide, is this a genetic problem? Is this a nutrition problem? Often it's a nutrition problem. Is it a hormone problem? Depending on your age, you might want to get your hormones checked because you need to do that through a physician. Don't try and do that on your own because you won't know what you're looking at. But if you have a hormone deficiency, you're probably not going to make progress very quickly, if at all. If you aren't getting 1 gram per pound of body weight, you're probably not going to make any progress. Those things are common, but always the most common one is you're just not adapting to the exercise past the beginner gains. So what will happen is that maybe the first couple of weeks you'll gain something. And for most people, the first couple of weeks they start lifting weights. Let's say they put on some size in their arms and their chest, and they got quite a bit stronger and they're really excited. And then for the rest of their lives, they're trying to capture that magic again, and it never, ever happens. And there's a statistic that was put out by lifehack.com in 2024. When somebody starts a fitness program, 90% of people will quit within 90 days. Now ask yourself, do they quit because they got great results? No, they quit because they got no results. So they're getting no results. And this is where, and I don't know if it's 90% and then there's 5% more people that just continue to go and accomplish nothing. Because when I would go to gyms years ago, I don't anymore, I work out right here. When I would go to gyms, I would see people year after year looking exactly the same, lifting exactly the same weight for exactly the same number of repetitions. And yeah, sometimes they'd have a spotter and they'd be like, oh, I'm going to grow now. No, they never did. So you don't want to get into that mode of spinning your wheels. Now, when you do get to the point where your progress slows down or stops beyond beginner gains, you're definitely on the right channel, because the next video you're going to want to watch is about variable resistance, and that will bust through any plateau. I've never met a human being that did not continue to grow muscle in, I don't want to say perpetuity because you can't just keep growing muscle forever, but you can get to your genetic potential and hold a lot of muscle, so much so that the average person in just about every case will end up looking like a professional athlete. And these are all people who are hard gainers, meaning they got beginner gains or not, and they were lifting weights, and then years went by where they'd made no progress. And as soon as they switched to variable resistance, that was the difference. That enables a much greater level of fatigue to happen in a much smaller amount of sets. Because what you're really doing when you work out is you want to give the muscle enough stimulus, not damage. Damage gives you the opposite. You want to give the muscle enough stimulus so that the central nervous system clearly sees, oh, we don't have enough muscle tissue here. We're going to have to grow more muscle tissue. Now there's two types of growth, sarcoplasmic and myofibril. I'll get into those in another video. But you're either doing that or you're not. And when you're not, the approach is variable resistance and you will begin to grow again. And like I said, never met a person it didn't work for. And I hardly meet many people outside of my professional work, because I do see a lot of professional athletes. The regular people I meet, almost everybody says, yeah, I've been lifting weights for a long time. And yeah, I don't know why it's not working, but I'm mixing up the program and I try and bring them back. Like, think about high school. Think about when that one guy in your high school ended up, he lifted for a summer between, let's say, sophomore and junior year, came back with 30 pounds of muscle, and you did the same thing and nothing happened. So there's a genetic difference, and this is the answer. This is how you break that plateau forever and you keep growing to your genetic potential. If this video helped you, I want you to subscribe and follow. I'm going to put out videos on a regular basis. I think they're going to help a whole lot of people, especially if you're one of those people that doesn't just instantly grow from lifting regular weights. We've got the answer for you.